Welcome to the Treasures of Mishnayot. We are in Mishnayot of Berachot in Perek Zayin Mishnah. That's chapter 7, Mishnah 5. Before we begin today's Kahati, let's see the Mishnah outside. If you had two groups of people that were eating in one house, at the time when a few of them are able to see one another, they are able to join for a zimmun. What happens if they're not able to see one another? One group does zimun to themselves, and another group, they do zimun to themselves, and they are not allowed to join. Continues the Mishnah to another topic. You're not allowed to bless on the wine, the blessing of Borei Priya Geffen, until you're going to place in it water. Meaning, until you dilute it with water, you're not allowed to bless on it Borei Priya Geffen. Diri Rabbi Eliezer, these are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. And the Chachamim say, Mevarachin, you are allowed to go ahead and bless. Now, Rabotai, this is the Mishnah. Now let's go ahead and see the Kahati, and we'll come back over here one more time. So the Kahati begins. After we had learned in the previous Mishnah, when is one group able to go ahead and separate from one another in order to be able to do zimmun by themselves? Comes our Mishnah to teach us when is it permissible? When is it allowed for different groups of people that are eating on separate tables? When are they allowed to go ahead and join as one for zimmun? Everything which is highlighted is the actual Mishnayot. Everything which is not highlighted is the Kahati. So we saw in the Mishnah began, if you had two groups of people that were eating in one house, every single group was eating on another table. Now this happens very much. For example, you have a Shabbat Chatan, or you have a Brit Milah or Bar Mitzvah, or even if you have a very big gathering, now you have men sitting on one table and you have other men sitting on another table, or in restaurants. Now you want to be able to go and you want to be able to join them to be part of your zimmun. Are you allowed to do that? So this is what we want to try to see now. So that's what the Mishnah begins. When you have two groups of people that are eating together in one house, but each group is eating on another table. At the time when a few of them are going to be able to see some other people from the other group. So the Kahati explains, what does that mean? Individuals from one group are able to see individuals from another group. You don't have to have, let's say for example, you have three people sitting over here, and you have three people sitting over here. You don't have to have all three people seeing this group, and these three people seeing this group. No, you don't have to have the groups seeing each other. That you don't have to have. What the Mishnah is telling us is, as long as you have some people, let's say you have one person, right? You're sitting at a table, you have three people over here, and you have three people over here. The other two people are sitting, let's say, behind a wall, and one guy is sitting outside of the wall. So now he's able to see the other group. And from the other group also, you have one person that's able to see them. As long as you have some people able to see one another, meaning somebody else from the other group, comes the Mishnah and it says, they are able to join for one zimun. What happens if they're not able to see one another? Right? That they're not able to see one another. Let's say they're sitting in one room, but they're behind mechitza, or they're behind a wall, or behind a pole, where it's very round, or it's very big. You can't see them. No problem, he says. That group that cannot see the other group, and the other group that cannot see that group, everybody has to go ahead and they have to do zimmun to themselves. Just because I'm able to hear them doesn't allow me to join in their zimmun. So the Kahati says, Chabura mizamen latzma. The group has to go ahead and they have to do zimun for themselves. In the Gemara it's stated, She'im yesh shamash echad. What happens if you have a waiter, an attendant, that is attending to two groups? One waiter, but he's going to table A and he's going to table B. Even though they're not able to see one another, Group A is not able to see Group B and Group B is not able to see Group A, but the fact that they have one attendant, they are able to join now for one zimun. So this is a very important point. Even though they cannot see one another, no problem. As long as they are able to go ahead and have a waiter that's going to attend to both parties, we're going to tell you they are able to go ahead and join into one zimun. Rabotai, I don't know why, but I don't know why my computer, again, after the vacation, I guess, but I don't know why my computer is just freezing up. As you guys can see, I mean, you can hear me speak, but it's freezing up. I don't know why. Maybe because of the weather. Okay, fine. So that's what he says. Even though they're not able to see one another, it doesn't matter. Since they have one waiter that's attending to both of them, they are able to join for one zimun. So that was topic number one. Now we are moving on to the next topic that we saw in the Mishnah. One is not allowed to bless on wine, the blessing of borei priya gefen, until you're going to place in it water. Until you're not going to dilute the wine with water, you are not allowed to go ahead and bless on it borei priya gefen. Comes the Kahat and he says, Lahafiget charifoto. Why did we want you to dilute the wine with water? In order to lessen, to reduce the sharpness of the wine. Because their wines were very sharp. They were very bitter. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer that holds. Without diluting the wine with water, the wine is not fit for the blessing of borei priya gefen. Rather, you're going to have to bless on undiluted wine. Borei priya eitz, the blessing of borei priya eitz, ke'al hanavim, just like you do it on grapes. So we see, according to Rabbi Eliezer, if you have undiluted wine, you're not allowed to bless on it borei priya gefen. Because of its sharpness, they used to dilute their wine. Now, why can't you bless borei priya gefen? You're still going to drink it. Because he held undiluted wine, the blessing is borei priya eitz, just like on grapes. However, the Chachamim disagree with him. The Chachamim omrim, and the Chachamim say, no, meverachin borei priya gefen. You are allowed to go ahead and you're allowed to bless borei priya gefen, gam alayayin, also on wine, she'eno mazug b'mayim, which is not diluted with water. So we see clearly over here the Chachamim learn that undiluted water also gets the blessing of borei priya gefen. Baram, however, comes the Kahat and he concludes, Mudim Chachamim, the Chachamim do agree to Rabbi Eliezer, because of Birkat HaMazon. If I have a cup of wine which is of Birkat HaMazon, which is designated for Birkat HaMazon, she'en mevarachin alav as she'yiten letocho mayim, she'tiyeh mitzvah min hamuvchar. You're not allowed to go ahead and bless on a cup of wine which is not diluted until you dilute it with water in order for the mitzvah to be the best possible way. He brings it down the name of Malechet Shlomo and the Tiferet Israel. Summary. So we learned today two things. The Mishnah addresses when separate groups may combine for zimun, which is the communal invitation to Birkat HaMazon, and then transitions to a halachic dispute regarding the blessing over wine. So the first case, zimun, joining separate groups. When two groups eat in the same house, each at its own table, if some members of each group can see members of the other group, they may combine into one zimmun. However, we did explain, if they cannot see one another at all, each group must recite zimmun separately. The Gemara adds an important qualification. If there is one waiter, like we saw the shamash, serving both groups, they may combine for zimmun even without visual contact. The principle, Rabotai, either visual connection or a functional connection, shared waitress, creates sufficient unity for zimmun. The next topic, which was blessing over wine, the dispute. Rabbi Eliezer ruled where Rabbi Eliezer held, wine that is undiluted with water is considered too strong. Such wine does not receive borei priya gefen, rather borei priya eitz like grapes. The sages, the chachamim, they disagreed. No, they said borei priya gefen is recited even on undiluted wine. Exception, cup of Birkat HaMazon. Even the sages agree with Rabbi Eliezer regarding the cup used for Birkat HaMazon. It should be diluted with water. This reflects the standard of mitzvah mina muvchar, optimal fulfillment of the mitzvah, as explained by later commentaries such as Malachat Shlomo and Tiferet Israel. So before we do conclude, let's just see the Mishnah inside. Okay, so we did start today Mishnayot of Barachot in Perek, Zayin, Mishnah Hey. The Mishnah began, if you had two groups that were eating in one house, at the time when some of the people from one group are able to see some people from another group, these, meaning they are able to go out and they are able to join for a zimmun, for one zimmun. What happens if they're not able to see one another? Each group is going to go out and they're going to do zimmun for themselves. So that was topic number one. Bottom line, we saw today that if you have two separate groups that are sitting and eating at their own tables under one roof, as long as you have some people that are able to see from one group, they're able to see somebody else from another group, and vice versa, you're going to be able to join them as a zimmun. Meaning you're able to join as one zimmun. However, what happens if they're not able to see one another? We're going to tell you that each group is going to go out and they're going to do their own zimmun to themselves. But we did see the Kahati bring down that what happens, Rabotai, if you have one waiter that's attending to both groups, even though they're not able to see one another, they are able to join into one zimmun. Next topic we spoke about, you're not allowed to bless an undiluted wine until you dilute it with water. Rabbi Eliezer, these are the words of Rabbi Eliezer, and we saw the Kahati explain, because Rabbi Eliezer held, undiluted wine, the blessing is borei priya eitz, just like on grapes. In order for it to have borei priya gefen, an undiluted wine, you have to dilute it with water. However, the Chachamim, they disagreed with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, and they said, Mivarachim, you are allowed to go ahead and you are allowed to bless the blessing of borei priya gefen, even on undiluted wine. Nevertheless, the Kahati did say that the Chachamim do agree with Rabbi Eliezer when it comes to the kosher Birkat HaMazon, that over there we want the wine to be diluted because we want it to be done in the best possible way, mitzvah min hamuvchar. Okay, Rabotai, with this we finish chapter 7, Mishnah Hey. With this conclusion, we completed the whole chapter 7. Be'ezrat Hashem b'lineder, in the following class, we're going to begin with chapter 8, Mishnah Aleph. Have a great day. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen ve'amen.